Good evening, everyone. At this time, if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and take 10 seconds of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Dan, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner McCall?
Here.
Commissioner Bond?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hausberg?
Here.
Commissioner Hanna?
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here, thank you. At this time, is the sheriff here to give a report? Please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Corporal Kelman with the Sheriff's Office. These are the November 2022 stats for the month. There were 2 assaults, 4 larcenies, and 1 burglary for the month. There were 715 events, resulting in 235 traffic stops, 77 direct patrols, and 66 illegally parked vehicles. Regarding the burglary, it was at Splash Harbor. The individual was arrested. They came through a back door, stole ice cream sandwich, I believe. They were arrested.
Came through a back door at Splash Harbor. What did they steal?
An ice cream sandwich. It was a transient.
Does anyone have any questions for the sheriff tonight? Thank you. How about just a reminder to the public to lock your doors in front of your homes?
Yes, please, to Bel Air Beach, Bel Air Bluffs, and Harbor View were hit very hard in the past week.
We've been pretty good, so
Yeah.
keep your doors locked.
And
Thank you.
Cars.
Yeah, and your doors on Saturday. Lock everything.
Thank you.
Yep, good night.
Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue, Chief Davidson, would you like to do your report?
Good evening, everybody.
Speak up.
Good evening, everybody. For our report for the month of November, we have 63 emergency responses, fire and medical, with an average response time of 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I was fortunate enough to come to the holiday tree lighting, Christmas tree lighting this year, and last year I had just been here, and just gotten here and started in November last year, so I didn't know. I wasn't there, and it was pretty awesome this year, so thanks for having us there. And we also, the boat parade last year, we weren't in the boat parade, and that shouldn't happen. So this year the fire boat will be decorated, and they'll be in the boat parade, and they'll stay in service. They've got an extra crew there, so they have to peel off, you know, they're going somewhere, but hopefully not for those few hours in the boat parade. So they'll be in there, and hopefully they decorate it pretty nice for you. So I'm looking forward to that. And I was invited by some wonderful citizens to come and watch the parade with them, so I'll be doing that on Saturday.
Awesome.
All right.
Anyone have any questions for Chief Davidson at this time? Thank you, Chief Davidson.
Thank you. And if I don't see you all before that, have the most wonderful holidays. Stay safe, and thanks for all that you do. And thanks for all of you too. Thank you.
Where are the women from the women's tea? Come forward. I want everybody to see them. This is the committee that did the women's tea this year. We had 240 women. We raised money for how many charities?
4 charities.
And what are those charities?
We have Fighting for Alyssa, the Indian Rocks Beach Community Food Pantry, the Paddleboard for Autism, and of course the Pineapple Project.
Cece was pretty much our lead with Melanie LeBlanc, who is not here today. How much are each of the groups getting?
So we have collected about $8,600 this year.
Right.
So almost double what we did last year. have to thank Bo for that too.
Why was it so fun this year?
So from this year?
Why was it so much fun?
We got players.
The firemen came in and volunteered as our
Our
servers.
servers, that's great. They were awesome, and they cleaned really well.
They did clean.
Just introduce yourselves.
I'm Jean Scott, and I'm one of the original tea party organizers with Cookie. She had came up with this idea several years ago, and we've done it every year except the year of COVID. And it's a great project, great project.
I'm Erin Foley, and this would be my second year on the board. Last year, Cookie had me help her out, and I would agree with Jean. It's a great event with great ladies, and it's such a good time. And it's all the wonderful people here in Indian Rocks Beach coming out to raise money for charity.
I'm Shelby Atavia. I work with Cookie and IRB. I own a small business, and I've worked at TJ's for way too long. And this is my first year on the board for the tea party. It's been awesome.
And what's the name of your business?
Devious Skin.
So all of the women that are on these are all business owners, entrepreneurs that are from this community. So that's one of the cool things about it too. What else would you like to?
I was going to say, I'm Cecily Banga, if anybody doesn't know me, but everybody knows me as Cece.
And do you
I
want
own
to give one
CC City
check?
Services.
Do you want to give one check to the chief?
So, Jeff, I'd like to have you come up because you and the fire department handle the paddleboard for autism of IRB. So I'd like to present you with this check. We split this with Fighting for Alyssa's. So here's a check for $1,435.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you got a group photo? Oh, with the fire chief.
Thank you.
We'll be using this card.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we just had our first annual paddleboard, and it turned out very successful, so we look forward to next year.
Is there anyone else that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have Brian.
Yes.
You could come up with Fighting for Alyssa. Want to do a quick little shout out about what Fighting for Alyssa is for?
Well, Fighting for Alyssa was named after our charity after our daughter who died of a heroin overdose about 7 years ago. And my wife and I formed this charity to raise money, which we distribute 100% of it to agencies that either engage in education, prevention, or treatment of substance abuse. And since our founding of this charity, we've distributed over about $750,000. So, I'm really kind of the city and this organization, and we look to find agencies locally to distribute this money where the rubber hits the road. So we're going to be working with Shelby here to find some agencies that are actively fighting in the war against substance abuse, which is getting worse, not getting better. And we appreciate everybody's help.
So Brian, I present to you this check for $1,435. Next, I'd like to introduce Terry. She's here picking up the check for the Pineapple Project. She'll give you a little lowdown of that as well.
So the Pineapple Project is just 2.5 years old, and what we do is we help people and families that are emerging from homelessness or other tragic situations by basically going in and giving them all of the home essentials that they just can't afford on their own. So everything from pots and pans to sheets and mattresses and furniture, art on the walls. We're so thrilled. We just helped our 42nd family this last Saturday. So this money, it's amazing. We're going to be able to help a lot more families in 2023 because of your generosity. So thank you. And Merry Christmas, everybody. So, Mary, I'd like to present you a check for $2,871 because you are our top, one of our top charities.
Oh, thank you.
We have to take a picture.
Oh, yeah, they showed me some.
Oh, you can stay.
ready?
Okay, one more. Yeah, Ashley's not here. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And if anybody in the community has items that they'd like to donate, furniture,
Oh,
you name it,
absolutely.
look up Pineapple Project. They always take it. They have a huge warehouse now that they can now, because of donations. they
Yep,
can
we're on
afford.
Facebook or just the Pineapple Projects with an S, projects.com.
Connie, unfortunately, our last charity is the IRB Food Pantry. Dear to my heart, my family did this years ago, so Connie's unable to be here tonight, so I will go ahead and take this for them. It's a check for $2,871, and if you guys don't know, the Indian Rocks Beach Community Food Pantry is right behind Guppy's at Calvary Episcopal Church. We serve thousands of people a week, and they always are in needs for canned items, holidays, Christmas is coming up, so they take in turkeys and anything you can think of, perishables, visitors as well. When you leave your establishments, you're welcome to bring open things to them, and they will bag them and things like that for people that will take them already open. So we appreciate everything for our community at the food pantry. That's also a check for $2,871 for them as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job, ladies. I'm crying.
I know watching her cry is too much.
Okay, we will move on to public comment. There's a 3-minute time limit. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed to any individual City Commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the City Commission.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I interrupt for a second? I have a request. Last month, Attorney Bob Copeland was presenting his presentation, and due to the commission rules, he was only allowed 10 minutes to do so. I was going to request if we might see if Bob could come to the front of the line, or he's after Kelly, and finish his presentation. I think there's some good information in there that would be beneficial to not only us, but also the staff, and your decision would be staff.
Bob, you'll have 3 minutes, and when you come up, we'll discuss that with you, okay? Kelly, your turn.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Sisterkin. I live at 448 Harbor Drive South. Sounds like it's going to be vacation rental part 2 tonight. I just sent you all an email just before the meeting, and it's a request regarding the vacation rental ordinance that you're beginning to work on, and it's specifically about swimming pool safety inspections for all the city's vacation rentals that are located in residential neighborhoods. The state developed the Residential Swimming Pool Safety Act back in 2000 for this reason, and they have in their legislative findings, the legislature finds that drowning is the leading cause of death in young children in this state, and is also a significant cause of death for medically frail elderly persons in the state. That constant adult supervision is the key to accomplishing the objective of reducing the number of submersion incidents, and that when lapses in supervision occur, a pool safety feature designed to deny, delay, or detect unsupervised entry to the swimming pool, spa, or hot tub will reduce drowning and near drowning incidents. Therefore, it's the intent of the legislature that all new residential swimming pools, spas, and hot tubs be equipped with at least one pool safety feature as specified in this chapter. The vacation rental businesses should have compliance standards that are more like assisted living facilities and daycare centers. This is me talking now, not the legislature anymore. Those businesses can also exist in residential neighborhoods, and in both cases, they can house vulnerable younger people or older residents, and those populations need more protections. So there's already a lot of cities in Florida that have incorporated the protections and the inspections from this act into their city ordinances. So when we update our ordinance, please make sure that we have a program in place to inspect for swimming pool barriers. That's not just those for pools that are built after 2000, but they can be inspected so that all vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods are brought up to the same standards. And I think that that could save some lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Carol?
My name is Carol McLaughlin, 115 21st Avenue. I'd like to comment, if I may, on a comment made at the special meeting that we had on November 15th. I'll preface it by saying that I am a retired motel and apartment owner, and I was actually in business here in Indian Rocks Beach for 47 years. I've been retired for a couple of years now. In the November 24th edition of the Beach Beacon, a citizen who identified himself as an Airbnb owner in IRB stated that 6% of the booking fee, I'm assuming he actually meant the 6% tourist development tax, goes to the city right off the top. In reality, the 6% county tourist or bed tax is used by the Tourist Development Commission for advertising and other related expenses to attract tourists to Pinellas County. The city does not receive any revenue directly from the 6% tourist development tax. He also took issue with the word transient, referring to tourists. According to our statutes and codes, transient is the term used to define any rental of less than 6 months in a day. I hope that this explanation helps our Airbnb owners to further understand the concept of the commercial properties in Pinellas County. I think it's very important that if you plan to be in the commercial business, and obviously a lot of people plan to be in the commercial rental business, that you should understand where the taxes are going, where your fees are going, and the terms to refer to our customers. So I hope this is clarified. I don't know if there are any Airbnb owners or people here tonight, but perhaps we could educate them. I think we should. Thank you.
Let's hold the clapping till the end, please. Thank you. Hi, John.
Good evening. John Fansfield, 448 Harbor Drive South. I want to thank you for scheduling the short-term rental workshop on June 24th. I personally didn't realize how rapidly our city is dying until last meeting. And I know these are very strong words, but Greg informed us that there are now 270 transient lodgings east of Gulf Boulevard. If you think about it, that means that our community has lost over 500 residents. That is, in those neighborhoods, about 15%, or 1 out of 6 of the families, seniors that live there are no longer there. This hurts our community. This is a crisis. On my street alone, there's 3 homes and very nice neighbors lived in that are now being converted to short-term rental. And at the other end of the street, there's 2 monster houses that are being converted, 6 bedrooms, to short-term rentals. This is a crisis. It needs monitoring. Every month, when we have a meeting, we should find out how many residents we've lost, and how many new short-term rentals have been registered. If we can't monitor it, we can't manage it. The other point is that we've heard about taking a balanced approach to this. I don't think that makes any sense. If you take a look at the numbers, it's about 1% of Indian Rocks Beach residents that own a short-term transient hotel in the east of Gulf Boulevard. Compare that to the 99% of the other residents. It doesn't make sense for the 1% of people who pushed unregulated, unsupervised, I shouldn't say unregulated, unsupervised hotels into the residential neighborhoods to be given the equal amount of weight as the 99% of the people who live there. That isn't like having the tail wag the dog, it's like having the flea on the end of the tail wagging the dog. So I hope you keep that in mind. IRB needs the strictest possible regulations to protect our community and to protect the renters. It's up to you to say what's left of our community, in this case perhaps only 85%. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John. Whichever.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Copeland, 447 20th Avenue.
Before you start, Bob, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for all of the work you've done and all of the comments that you made last week or last month when we had our meeting. All of us have read, if we hadn't already, the Florida statutes and also the parking, which we worked on for over 12 months. I will give you 3 minutes, and if there's anything else that you want to add to the great comments that you gave us last month.
Sure. First of all, I do have a copy of your Rule 23A, and I have a group that are represented, so I should be able to get 10 minutes based on the rules. So I'd like to provide that. And last time I gave a list of 38 people for which the 10 minutes was granted. We'll just let it as it is, so perhaps I can follow the rules, or is that not, these rules don't apply at this meeting?
No one has suggested the rules don't apply. So
I just asked, but here's the list, or do you want to?
Could you, sure, bring it forward, all those people
And I have
present.
multiple lists if we have to do it that way too, so however, whatever's best, easiest.
It's not an adversarial proceeding, we're trying to.
I was going to initiate that by asking, I feel like I'm treated like an adversary by many people since this started. And
Okay.
I'm here to help.
So, sir, you've represented that you are here on behalf of 4 individuals
Yep.
on this list. Is Ken Hill present this evening?
No, he didn't show up.
Is Margaret Hill present this
His
evening?
wife, she did not show up.
Is, I think it's Joe Mulaney? Mulaney present? Okay. Is,
Yes.
I think it's Nober Mulaney?
Volker.
Sorry, it's just, I've got signatures, not print. So there's 2 people who are willing to yield time to you, sir. That would get you to 9 minutes. Do you have a third that is present this evening?
I have 4 more that are present. I have even more than that, perhaps. How do we?
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry to walk from the podium without permission. But how do we deal with that?
I'm just trying to find people who are trying to identify those
That
persons
people are
present,
here.
yielding their time to you, sir.
I understand, the people that are here, okay.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am, in the blonde hair in the third row, could you please stand up and state your name?
Carol Britz.
Carol Britz.
Yes.
Okay, sir, you've had 3 people identify themselves that they will yield their time to you. Under our rules of procedure, you're entitled to 10 minutes. If you wish for more time, under our rules of procedure, the commission may grant it. That is at their discretion. So nobody is denying you any operation of the rule. We're working through them. So you have 10 minutes. Do you wish for more?
I would.
Okay. How much time are you requesting, sir?
I don't really know, I doubt it, I think Mr. Hanna at one time maybe suggested 20, and I've got more lists, so I can pull up 4 or 5.
It's clear there's several hands up. It's just in order for us to give you time beyond the 10 minutes, in the just discretion, in equity to everybody, I need to know how much time you're seeking so they know what to move and grant you.
20.
Okay.
2 sets of 10.
Okay. You're seeking, yes, 20 minutes. If we get to 20 minutes, how many, those persons raising their hand, could you please rise? You've got a lawyer doing math here, so we need at least 7 people. You have your one and the other 3. Ma'am, what's your name?
Judy Sexton.
Judy Sexton. Ma'am, you already stood before. Sir in the gray shirt, what is your name?
James Izzolo.
James Izzolo. Ma'am, next to him?
Katarzyna Pioro.
Okay, I'm not going to repeat that, but I heard it. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need well, and then you were the 7th, sir. That would get you to 21 minutes. So you're requesting 20 minutes. At this stage, is there a motion of the commission to grant Mr. Copeland the 20 minutes he is requesting.
I would go along with that.
Okay, Member Hannah has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Member Hannah has made a motion. Member Hausberg has seconded. Is there any discussion on the body about the motion on the floor? It's procedural and it doesn't really require one. So with that, Madam Clerk, can you poll the commission?
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Sure.
Vice Mayor Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah,
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy.
You have 20 minutes.
Thank you. And
So that was a yes?
Yes.
And thank you, Mr. Mora. Though when I read the rules, I don't see that the group is required to have a certain numbers. I just bring that up for if the event this comes up again.
Well, the premise is that you're being yielded other people's time, sir. I'm not trying to create an artifice, and we can
That's
work
fine.
through that
I
in
just
the
point
future.
out, if it has to come up again, I just read the rule as it's written. And it just says a group. It doesn't say it has to be a number of people.
Understood,
trying to get
sir.
forward.
You've been granted the 20 minutes you've requested,
So,
sir. I don't
thank you very much.
wish to cut into that.
As I've introduced myself before, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments earlier. I don't feel that I've been treated very well. I do think I appreciate your comments. I spent immense amount of my personal free time to do this, and I have volunteered, and it wasn't well received or not received, and that's fine. I just look at things a little different, and not everyone sees things differently, but I'm not an adversary. I don't want to be. I'll put it to you that way. I have a skill set that's unique without me sitting here tapping my own horn, that you're not going to find. I have not mentioned the fact that I have already been involved with 2 citizen initiatives against the city, which we prevailed. I didn't see a need to bring that up, but so as we're here today, I do appreciate the fact that at the end of the meeting, I did understand that several of my comments were acknowledged as, pretty relevant, and a few things I would like to ask and just go through. So I understand that the city is in the process of dealing with an amended ordinance. Thank you very much. I think it's quite a monumental task to ask of the people that are I understand, are tasked to put that together. I think perhaps it's not reasonable to ask them to do that, given the circumstances. I've been, like I said, lawyer 40 years, CPA license 39 years, general counsel for publicly traded corporations. I've been through many fire drills that exceed the budget of this city, and probably even handle transactions that exceed the whole value of Indian Rock's property base. I know how to deal with fire drills. That being said, I appreciate that you've tasked people, but I think it's not really fair to them or reasonable. And we all know that there's a serious problem. Been going on for a long time. I attempted to retain Greg Stewart, the premier expert in the state of Florida on short-term rentals and Bert Harris problems, to come to the meeting, and address the city and provide independent advice. But however, Mr. Stewart advised me his firm won't allow them to represent people. Mr. Stewart's firm is the one that represented Flagler in their lawsuit. Mr. Stewart's firm is the one that represented Flagler in the appeal and probably wrote the ordinance. So what I suggest, because I understand the city is not particularly able to bring citizens interest in, if you got a broken hip and you need surgery, you get a hip specialist to do it. I think that the city should go ahead and let the people that are tasked with doing the amended ordinance go ahead and put it together. I think you should take the citizens' input and allow those to be made, and I think you should hire Mr. Stewart as a special consultant that reports directly to the board, as its corporations do when they have large financial or other problems, and the cost is relatively insignificant. He's just going to take the product that's done. He's the expert, you're not going to find anybody more qualified than that, and let him give you the final input and advice of whatever end up draft the city is looking at, because not everybody can do everything, or see everything, or know everything, and you can't go wrong. The cost is insignificant as to the problems. Bert Harris is a very manageable risk. I've heard people discuss how to manage it. I know how to manage it, and I'm not a Bert Harris person. Mr. Stewart knows exactly how to manage it. I understand that's the big worry of the city. You know, forget why we're even have to worry about it at this point in time. You know, I'm not going to go there. But so first thing I recommend is you all consider, once you get where you think you're happy with the amended ordinance, the board to retain Mr. Stewart's firm. It's got office Tallahassee, Tampa, whatever it takes, and penny wise, pound foolish as to what you might avoid in problems down the road. That I would think that should be considered. There's no downside. These are rhetorical questions on this set, you know, so I brought up some statutes last time under 509, and I realize that some of those are likely being looked at for incorporation into the amended ordinance, but there's a couple of them that don't need to be in our ordinance. It can be enforced now. And I was wondering if the commission, and this is rhetorical, I understand how this works, has gotten any feedback as to whether our city has been in touch with the sheriffs regarding the Florida Statute 509-141, ejection of undesirable guests, Florida Statute 509-143, Florida Statute 509-143, breach of peace, disorderly conduct. Have they been in touch with the sheriff, verified, yes, this is true, yes, it's usable, and empowered the sheriff to start utilizing that? I mean, I have one of these destination party McMansions a couple doors down. They're just out of control, and this 10 o'clock noise ordinance that we use as residents doesn't really work. It wasn't designed for this. So again, where is the city? That's not my job to find out. We don't need to wait to get that rolling. I take the position, and I think it's pretty easily sustained, that every short-term rental permit that's issued in this city has been issued illegally and improperly. And the reason I take that position is not one of them are in compliance with our own ordinance, off-street parking 110-372(15). You know, I think there's a generic catch-all in our 2018 amended ordinance that says they shall be subject to our ordinances and our noises and our parking. But look, the Loader family, the Krabby's group, you know, 18 on the Rocks, Eddie's, Hurricane Eddie's, Salt, I don't know how many of these other businesses open up. Everybody's got to be in compliance with all the rules before they get their permit to open up. Just seems pretty straightforward. They're not in compliance. I know for a fact that there are short-term rental licensed properties that don't have the physical capability to put the required parking spaces. Much less, there's nothing in the records to show that they're compliant. You know, I don't understand. You know, I mean, things happen, but it's pretty straightforward. I really just want to talk about my recommendations a little bit. Jumped over the rest of the stuff. Read it or not read it. Understand it or not. It's, you know, not really, you know, what this format is designed to ask me questions. Because I understand that they're in the process of, you know, amending an ordinance, and there should be input, and you know, not everybody can do everything or know everything. You know, I mean, I took this from scratch to ground running. I guarantee I miss parts, but it seems that starting with an existing resident-friendly ordinance that's proven over time generally pretty risk adverse approach to amending our ordinance. And I specifically picked Flagler because it's the lead case. I picked Anna Maria. I picked Marathon, though I know there could be a nuance or two with Marathon and the date of when the statute enacted, but it has some specific provisions that could be used. So I just point out that, you know, trying to create your own recipe from scratch is not necessarily as productive as going to a cookbook that's already been used, and would hope that that approach is being used. Our business tax receipt short form vacation rental sure seems awful weak to me. Doesn't really have much in it. You know, I didn't bring a copy because I didn't print out all my exhibits, but if I recall, it's probably got something along the lines of, to my best knowledge and belief, everything's right. Well, if you look at the Flagler County exhibit, which is Exhibit S, my ordinance, it's got real detailed documents. You know, it's got, it's already made up. It's got occupant vehicle, boat trailer registration form. You don't have to start from scratch. That kind of ties into one of the statutory issues I brought up about mandatory on-site registration. I know that the city's talked about increasing. So again, it's already done. It's there. It's very comprehensive. I don't know what you're doing. I'm not asking what you're doing. I'm just pointing out in my recommendations how I see that as being a pretty easy way to create your own approach going forward. At the last meeting, there was a discussion about, yes, they want to look at the increase of the fees. I don't profess to know what justifies or doesn't justify a fee, but I can tell you if you look at different cities, there are sliding fee structures, and Anna Maria has it. Can't remember if and Flagler has it in the documents I gave you. I can't remember if Marathon has it or not, but I know it's a magic. So it's not a science, and once again, if it's already proven and it's reasonable, then it just seems to facilitate people that have, putting in their efforts to get this project along. I think the way our ordinance is written, it's not mandatory inspections, it's permissive inspections. I think that's a little bit of a problem. And it appears that it's more likely than not that the majority of them would not pass the fire safety codes. So as I pointed out, the exit signs and emergency lights that are required, much less other things. So I think that's just a little nuance that, it's mandatory and you can have more than one. You don't have to have just one. Of course you give notice, but, by not putting it in your rules, then, you're going to have a bigger problem of dealing with it. And, people are people, and I've come to call the short-term rental business greed gone wild. And there's plenty of reasonable people, but there's plenty of people that aren't reasonable, and it's the ones that aren't reasonable that you gotta make the rules to deal with. A licensing, you can get a licensing fee and an inspection fee. You can have pass-through fees that the fire marshal charges to go to. You need to understand that this is a cost of doing business, and when you got a business, you just have to pay what it is. I mean, across the street, there's a non-waterfront 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that gets $2,800 a week, plus cleaning fee. For that I usually, forget the McMansion that asks anywhere from $700 to $1,750 a night, the party house. It's just a cost of doing business for us to pass through. It's not punitive. It's not unreasonable. But using these additional incremental registration fees is what will fund our city's short-term licensing management program. I believe there was a number mentioned about Holmes Beach charges approximately $500 biannually. You're talking $1,000. I thought there was closer to $350 total, $290 this side of Gulf Boulevard, whatever the number is. I'll just use 300 average. That's $300,000 if you follow that number, versus you could use different numbers, sliding scale numbers. $300,000 goes a long way to hiring. I know we took on a second staff, but there's cities that have full-time people that are admin that monitor all kinds of stuff internally and then outside. Well, this is funded by the Airbnbs. It's not a city expense, it's just a pass-through when you use that money. The city, and if you look at other ones, and this is what I followed, the more detailed the rules are that you have for the property owners, the actually better it is for them to be able to be compliant. Having extremely detailed rules that they are required to sign for, receipt, and turn it in with their application avoids a discussion by the owner that I didn't know. Oh, that was over there, I didn't know, I'm sorry, I didn't read it. Well, no, you got it all. Because when somebody comes back, your kid, I'll just use a kid, example, your kid comes in late after curfew, 10 or 15 minutes once, okay. They come back in after curfew about 3 times in a row in a few weeks, it's not quite the same. It's a good discussion you usually would have. So that's my point of having this extremely detailed rules, basically it's their contract that they have to sign for. Marathon in particularly has a mandatory training class for the Airbnb applicants that they must attend. So then once again, they can't say, hey, we got the rules, we signed for the rules. Now we went to your mandatory training class, which they provide, which perhaps you could reach out to them and you could then, subcontract to their vendor or get their vendor to put a video together, and whatever the fee is, just pass it through, whatever, something reasonable. Now they're at a training class they have to attend. So they can't never, they can't keep saying, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing to know, then I guess there's nothing to know. I'm not suggesting this, but I will tell you that, one of my client bases was national lenders. We handled property problems all over the state. And it's standard that cities require a property manager to be located in that county who could respond to the property. I believe Marathon has that sort of provision that they have to have a licensed, somebody that went through this class, but they have to have somebody that is within X period of response time. It's not something new, and once again, if there's no problems at the property, it's not a burden. But if you keep having these party animal houses, and they have to keep showing up, and you just get lip service over the phone because the guy's up in New York or wherever, you just can't get it done. I think there's a real problem asking people, I don't care who you are, person, anybody on staff, to verify that a property is in compliance with Florida Building Code. I don't know anybody sitting up here in front of me that probably can really, I can't, I had a GC in my house to get a bunch of work done multiple times, but I can't tell you what the code is. I can't tell you. That's that pitfall that I see in our forms. So I think that it's not unreasonable to require the property owner, the short-term property owner, to provide a written report from a licensed Florida professional that states the property's in compliance with all the provisions of Florida Building Code. I mean, in all fairness, I think fire chief, city people, they're scrambling, trying to figure out what is exactly every single rule that has to be followed. But if you have the requirement that the but the person wanting to do business gets something signed. A licensed floor professional is not gonna throw away his license for his buddy. So you put in there that you have a licensed floor professional sign off for the building code, with the Florida Fire Prevention Code, the Florida Fire Safety Code, Florida Swimming Pool Act, whatever. I got in here this 3-story height inspection, you get a special report for that. But having that given to the city as part of its application process just makes the city's life easier. I don't know, I'm probably going to run out of time in a second. There's an issue of maximum occupancy, and this is this Bert Harris animal. It's very manageable to deal with it going forward. I'm not an expert at Bert Harris. I've never handled those cases, but I've walked myself through enough of this to think I know how to do it. But I'm not enough to make a comment here, but this is why I say once it's put together, I'd make my comments, but this is where you bring in Mr. Stewart after the fact. After you all look at it, you bring in your second opinion for your surgery. But there's a nuance to that, and that's the maximum number of occupants in a property. And this is what Marathon has. And the nuance is that the party house will bring in 40 people for a party that's only got maximum 8 occupants allowed, and the police have no ability to do anything because they say they're just guests. But Marathon's dealt with that by putting that secondary backup. I appreciate your time. I told everybody in the beginning I'm here to help. My quote was I'm here to be your gopher. I still am. I'm just having to move on independent. But thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Bob, for your comments. We appreciate it.
Good job.
My name is James Azzolo, 458 20th Avenue. Picture this. You have 2 young children, 10 and 13, 2 young girls, getting woken up in the middle of the night because the party house across the street is going crazy. The kids have school the next day. They come running into your bedroom. Mommy, Mommy, what's that noise? Daddy, what's that noise? Oh, what? That noise? Oh, it's a huge party across the street. It's okay, honey, go back to sleep. Oh no, I'm scared, it's noisy. Picture that. Picture cars cruising down the street, literally at 3 a.m., burning rubber, because the party house is having a party. The music's blaring. You got kids, you got young families. We're one of the few young families. You're not going to have any young families around here if you don't get this under control. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't want young families. I don't know where you stand. But it's ridiculous. The noise is ridiculous. Our kids can't sleep. They're scared. We got to be careful going down the road, riding our bikes with our kids, because all these partiers are irresponsible. They're driving the golf carts that they've probably never driven before, but are at the house without license plates. They're drunk, they're wasted, they're having a good time. Hey, there's a time and a place for everything. But picture that, where you can't even have your kids biking down the street. How would you like it? We moved here 8 years ago to a nice, quiet, peaceful community. Paid a lot of money to live here because we want to raise our family in a nice, peaceful beach community. It's not like that anymore. It's sad. It's truly sad. Not everybody's a bad renter. There's certain people, they come with their family. Husband, wife, a couple of kids. They come for a week. They're respectful. They have a good time. But right across the street, you've got these 2 gargantuan houses. They have, weddings. They have all-night parties. It's insanity. It's like you don't want to live there. How would you feel if you got 2 little kids? I mean, this community is actually turning into, for lack of a better word, just wild. It's become wild. And, you know, I think it's your responsibility to help us, the citizens, the residents of the community, the backbone of the community. Not the 99% who live wherever and all they care about is how much money they take in, and they don't care if there's 20 people here. They'll never know it. They don't care. They just care about the money, the greed. And it's ruining our community. Thank you.
So what was your...
Until the very end.
45820.
45820. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Conti. I'm at 735 First Street. I am a short-term rental owner, and I am a real person. I'm not a corporation. I have 3 children. I'm a single mother. This is how I support my family. And I own vacation rentals in many markets, and I travel a lot. I rent myself on Airbnb when I travel, and I see what goes on when there's vacation rentals and markets that allow vacation rentals and markets that don't allow vacation rentals or put such hard restrictions that it becomes impossible. As an owner, the most important thing to me is that I maintain my property well and that I run my property well. I own long-term rentals as well. Those bring in less income, so there's less money to reinvest in the property. And that's just basic economics. The party houses that everyone speaks of, I'm sure that happens, but that's not the majority of us. Most of us want to run businesses, we're business owners. We want to run businesses properly. I'm sure you have different other businesses in the community that aren't run well, but those are one-off situations. There could be a restaurant that doesn't operate efficiently. Airbnb puts these restrictions and these trainings already on us. So if you don't have a 4.5 out of 5 stars, Airbnb will shut you down. So there's plenty of trainings that go on for us, and the most important thing for us is our ratings. So we want to run our businesses really well. We want to provide good guest experiences, and we want to maintain our properties really well. Most of these homes are $500,000 and up. So these are not low-income properties. We are taking pride in our properties, and we are reinvesting money, and we're improving the community. And I own a motel in Daytona Beach, and that's a market that has no short-term rentals. And you can buy homes, 5 houses from the ocean for $200,000. And you're and there's long-term renters in there. They're from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and those properties are run down. And all of the businesses in town are fighting for short-term rentals because investors will come into those markets, buy those properties, and improve them. I would be one of those people. But instead, there's run-down houses that are an eyesore to the community that there's police calls for, not because of partying, but because of real problems. And it's very apparent that short-term rentals heighten and lift up communities.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
I live it, and that's my business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Commission. Luke LaRoe, 2240 Baylor Road. I'm here to address this issue on behalf of a number of my clients who do engage in the short-term rental business. And admittedly, a lot of what we've heard tonight, it is tragic, but I would suggest that there are ample regulations, both countywide, statewide, and certainly in your community, to address the nuisance characteristics of the descriptions that you've been given tonight of places that don't want to comply with apparently any ordinance. I would like to say that In speaking to the clients that I represent, I would be certainly reluctant to say that they do anything out of greed. They simply want to share the beauty of this community with the people that want to participate.
That's enough. Everyone has a right to speak.
They don't want the money.
Stop.
I didn't say they didn't want money, but that's not their primary
Sit down.
endeavor.
I have
So,
one question.
Lynn, you have to sit down.
Okay.
My sister's a comedian in New York, and I think I just did better than she did. So, in any event, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the legal background. My esteemed colleague here, I think we even shared a panel together at the convention for Florida State Attorneys, and it was a privilege to work with him. And I know that you have one of the best counsel and the best firms in the entire state, if not the entire country, representing you. So I would not give you any information that I know would not be backed up by the research. Certainly you're aware that there's a state statute that prevents local governments, if they don't already have a prohibition against short-term rentals, from adopting an ordinance that would restrict short-term rentals for any period after the date in the statute of 2011. Which makes it difficult for you as a local government to try to address all of the concerns and balance out the interests of those people that want you to prohibit those short-term rentals, and certainly suggest to you that you adopt a series of different rules and regulations that, while they will not prohibit short-term rentals, are really designed to try to accomplish that through the back door. I don't think anybody is in any way resistant of any regulations for the public health, safety, and welfare. Everybody wants to make sure everybody's safe. The pool enclosures, the things of that were suggested, that's not a bad idea. Anything that makes sense is a good idea. But if it's designed in a way to try to hamper the private property rights of the people that do engage in short-term rentals, then obviously that's not going to be hard to see. Certainly not in the way that it was suggested, not in the way that it's exposed. I've looked at all of the cases that were referred to by my colleague, and quite honestly, there is only one case, the Flagler County case, which was a circuit court decision that was per curiam affirmed by the 5th District Court of Appeal. There is no companion case in the 2nd District Court of Appeal where we are. And if I can just give you the names of some of the people that I represent so that I can borrow some of their time, if I may. Heidi Navarro.
Is Heidi Navarro present?
Kenny Hazlett.
Kenny Hazlett, are you present?
Present.
Andrew Pena.
Andrew Pena? Okay.
Stacy Conti.
Stacy Conti. Ma'am, could you stand up just so I can see, because if you come forward, okay, so Ms. Conti already spoke, so that still gets you to your 10 minutes, sir. You have 10 minutes.
All right, I won't
under the
use
rules
it.
of
And I'm not
procedure.
going to be as long as you might fear, but really all I'm trying to say is that there needs to be a balance. We look forward to participating in the workshop, but to try to engage in some kind of creation of some Byzantine, overly onerous regulatory process to try to achieve what the statutes pretty much say you cannot do in trying to prohibit short-term rentals, would just simply not make sense. I mean, I know there's a balance that can be reached. Maybe enforcement of noise ordinances might be better. I mean, that seems like it would be applicable to any business, any home, any use of property that violates your noise ordinances, regardless of whether it's being used for short-term rentals or not. But I just wanted to say that in addition to the other cases, the only two that really made it to the issue have been discussed in an Attorney General's opinion, not binding on anybody, but it was dealing with a Wilton Manors regulation that essentially tried to, under the effort to, and I'll just read the quote so that I don't misstate it, just said, Wilton Manors is considering enacting a zoning ordinance that would set distance separation requirements between vacation rentals or limit the percentage or number of vacation rentals on city streets or in city neighborhoods, and the city represented that the ordinance would implement, and I stress this, various health, safety, and welfare goals, such as reducing vehicle traffic, reducing the need for additional parking, reducing noise detrimental to surrounding residential uses, reducing the need for additional police, fire, emergency services, etc. So Wilton Manors tried to adopt an ordinance that did not on its face restrict the ability to engage in short-term rentals. They did it by adopting this ordinance, or at least presenting that ordinance to the Attorney General's office as a suggestion of something they would adopt. And the Attorney General basically, in their opinion, said that you can't really do that. And they even cited the Flagler County case and the other 2 cases that are, again, just circuit court cases. I would respectfully submit that I think it's entirely possible, in fact, I think it's 100% possible, that we all work together to try to come up and participating in your upcoming workshop. And I think somebody said it was June. I'm sure it's January 24th, if I'm not mistaken. But I think if we work together with a proper balance, and I do stress the word balance, there's a way to create some form of regulatory scheme that will benefit the city, that will protect the residents that live here, but will also allow to protect the private property rights of my clients that really are not the bad people that they've been painted to be. I'm sure there are not, everyone's perfect. Obviously the stories I heard tonight, there are some people that certainly would need to exercise more responsibility in how they rent their properties and to whom they rent their properties. But it's all something that can be discussed. And obviously you're going to have some people that are in violation of whatever concerns you may have, but I know we can get the job done and work cooperatively in a way that I certainly would look forward to, certainly with my colleague and with the people in this city that I've been coming down here, as long as I've lived here all my life. My grandfather came down as a tourist in the 30s and became a golf pro at the Bellevue Biltmore, and that's how we ended up down here. So tourism is not entirely a bad thing. Short-term rentals are not entirely a bad thing. But I look forward to communicating with everybody that works together through this workshop to try to come up with a solution that I think will balance these things out and address everyone's concerns. And I just say that in an air of optimism and good faith that my clients wanted me to present to you, and I appreciate the privilege of being able to talk to you tonight.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Sir?
Yeah, I yielded, Paul Fotheringham's going to yield his time to me. I don't think Luke is going to use my time. Let's use 3 minutes real quick. Kenny Hazlett, and I just want to say, the property of mine is 1201 Bay Pine. And I'm also the owner of Beachtown Rentals. We manage over 30 properties here locally. And I would say not only to the leadership, you folks, you got a tough job, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. And I'd say to the community, particularly the community of homeowners here that live here as primary residents, we hear you. We absolutely hear you, and the stories that I hear, I personally don't think there are any that come from the properties that we manage. However, that said, we hear the concerns. We hear you're upset about noise, keeping your kids up. I'm a father of 3, that would be really tough. We hear about the garbage, the parking. We love this community. We want to pour into this community and support the community. Short-term rentals are here to stay, per Tallahassee. So I think finding a way that we can all coexist, have common sense discussions about what makes sense in terms of, keeping the bad actors out of this profession. And that's unfortunate. And it's just, I've heard numerous times tonight about the party house. And those are the bad actors. I can just tell you, we've engaged the leadership at Airbnb, put these party houses on notice that they continue to actually get pulled off the platform. And we are pulling together as a cohesive group to put, to self-manage and put guardrails in ourselves. In our business, we've put regulations that have gone, exceeded candidly what's in place with your ordinance. We've always put in place occupancy levels, parking. We've retained, if somebody steps out, one of our customers steps out of line, we retain their deposit. We make it painful, for those bad actors. We have, very hands-on check-in, check-out concierge, going through the rules, making them understand. Somebody mentioned about having, somebody here local. I think that's important. But, if done, I've seen it firsthand how short-term rentals can be done properly and if executed effectively and can coexist with our neighbors. So I'll just leave you on that note. We hear the concerns. We take them serious and look forward to working with you on crafting something that makes sense for all parties involved. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Don House, 2114 Beach Trail, proud SFA, and a West Sider. Short-term rentals suck. Big deal. We all know that. But here's what we We have another problem on the west side, in that, yes, we have short-term rentals that we have to deal with, but 150 feet north of me is a place that anybody could come and spend the night without any problems. They can park there overnight without any limitation from the city for 3 days. They go to the beach, whatever. I was talking to the deputy outside, corporal outside, talking about, well, they're not allowed to sleep in the car. This is not a product of Tallahassee. This is a product of this city commission that changed the parking rules in the parking and the beach accesses, okay? This place is 150 feet north of me. Oh, by the way, there's another one 120 feet south of me. We have 2 beach accesses where anybody, any transient, whatever you want to call them, they don't even have to rent a place here. They can come and park overnight. This is the deal that this city commission made, and this is what's affecting us on the west side, okay? As you're dealing with the, and you're talking about people going up and down, kids and all that other stuff, you should come to my house during the summer. Beach Trail is a 1-lane road. Everybody knows that. It is the traffic there, we just laugh at it. We keep people going from one of these transient parking lots to the other transient parking lot, back and forth, looking for a transient parking space. Just, we need to address that as we're addressing the other transient issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Your name?
My name is Dan Minesberg. I'm at 442 Harbor Drive North. There have been a lot of calls for the commission to assemble a committee to assess with drafting ordinances concerning short-term rentals. I believe there could be a benefit to such a committee. I'm concerned that the makeup of this group, though, short-term rental owners that are also primary residents make up less than 3% of the 2,700 households in Indian Rocks Beach. Whatever size group is considered, they should in no way account for more than 3% of this committee. Short-term owners have already assembled a group of more than 50 owners to fight against our concerned citizens. They offer a view of regulation that will only meet their needs and are attempting damage control by appearing cooperative. They pose claims that the signs around our neighborhood are hurting the vibe of IRB. This vibe is being compromised with a negative effect on the citizens of IRB. Residents have used their own money and time to purchase and install these signs in an effort to get the commission to represent the residents. Many of these have been stolen. There is talk that there are only a few bad actors among the short-term rental group, but how can you track rule breakers when there are no rules? There is a place for these accommodations, just not inside of residential areas. Please listen to your constituents and get this issue resolved for the citizens of IRB. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
Hi, good evening. I've heard a lot of stuff
Say
today.
your name and your address on six.
Teresa Putnieska, 316 6th Avenue. Today I have heard a lot of words, balance, situation, there's serious conflict, and it's natural when we try to put two zones together, business with residential. Those two things don't have nothing in common, and they cannot live peacefully together because the lifestyle, the whole goal of living in that area is totally different. And that causes a lot of conflict, a lot of headaches, and a lot of wasted time. Like right before I came over here, a police was called to my street. It's a short little street, but there was more than 20 cars parked. There was no way you could get in, get out, and in case of emergency, nobody could come and help us. There is serious conflict of safety, and you're putting us in danger by putting hotels right next to us. They're illegal, they're not up to all the requirements, rules, and regulations. They do different things. They want to stay up and have a good time, where we just want to live, work, go to school, and raise the family on the street. Those two things do not go together. That's why we have zoning. Hotels should be in hotels, and let them fight out together. Some are better, some are worse, one will disturb another, that's fine. Let them deal, they want to own hotels. We don't want hotels, we just want to live. That's why they have zonings, and I think we should respect zonings and keep them separate for peace of mind. My husband has a shop. It's all industrial, manufactured. There's no hotels there, there's no residents right among them. There is no conflict. Everybody goes there to work, make money, and leave. There is no conflict. You don't have to balance anything. They're doing all the same thing. They all goal-oriented, and that's the same goal. And you cannot put two different groups and force them to live together and be happy. We cannot coexist like that, happily and live ever after. And we had that. And let's face it, on my street, the people came there to live with their family, raise a family. They didn't because they've been robbed of what they had thought they bought, and that they can live there as a family, raise a family. They're all living. And that's not right either. And it's not right for residential area to put up of the inconvenience and cost and safety issues having hotels all the way around. There's never going to be a peace. You cannot balance that.
Thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time?
R.B. Johnson, 1206 Beach Trail. I know that the administration is working on a revised short-term rental ordinance that will be brought up at the meeting in January, but I just wanted to make a few recommendations from my own personal experience. I do live on the west side of Gulf Boulevard where our current ordinance does not apply, but I do believe that any new ordinance has to apply in some sense or fashion to at least some of the properties on the west side that aren't condominiums, that have condo associations or homeowner associations, condo rules, whatever, hotels, et cetera, et cetera. Properties that simply don't have any rules but function just like they do on the east side of Gulf Boulevard as mini hotels. I live next to one, and for the last 5 or so years, it's a house that's on a 50-foot wide lot. In other words, a very narrow lot, but it's large enough to have and advertise as such as having 5 bedrooms, and they say sleeps 12 and 14 if you use the blow-up queen-size mattress. So we have a relatively tiny property that every week has anywhere from 10 to 12 people, maybe even 14 that come every week there. It's just way too much, and there's no rules. Like I said, you don't have rules that you have in any of the condos that are near us, the smaller cottages that only, for instance, my own cottage that I rent out, it has only a couple of bedrooms and is very quiet. We don't have 12 or 14 people there. There needs to be some application to these properties on the west side. I also want to mention occupancy. I think there definitely needs to be occupancy limits. And we already have in our code a phrase or a term that's called residential equivalent use. And it sort of underlies a philosophy about what's appropriate in our neighborhoods. It's utilized for bed and breakfasts, for instance, and some of the group homes and things that perhaps could end up in some of our neighborhoods. And it basically has a 3-bed limit. And it's in our comp plan and it's in our code already. And I think that that could be used as a basis for really what the limit should be. Because I can't think of a single condo, for instance, on the west side of Gulf Boulevard where we've always allowed vacation rentals that has more than 3 bedrooms. They just don't. They have 2 or 3. A large condo will have 3 bedrooms. That's the standard. It's the same for the cottages as well. So when you get above that, when you get above 3 beds, basically 6 people, if you want to say 6 plus 1, it's just getting to be too much per unit, too much per property, and too much of an impact on the adjoining neighborhood or the neighbors. Another area where I think a lot of the noise and the problems emanate is from pools and hot tubs. Again, if you're in like a house that's next door to me, there are no rules for the pools and hot tubs, just like there are for all the condos and the motels and hotels in the city. Therefore, they can go as loud and as long as they want, essentially, unless somebody calls the cops on them at 2 o'clock in the morning. We should be proactive and put rules that apply all over the city, these vacation rentals for pools and hot tubs, just like we have for condos and hotels and motels that basically say, for instance, after the sun goes down, they just can't use them because it's simply not appropriate. I think that needs to be added, if it's maybe already be considered, but something that needs to be put in whatever ordinance you all are considering. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward? Linda?
Linda Newton, 438 Harbor Drive North. I bought my forever home here almost 20 years ago, and this is not the same neighborhood that I spent a lot of money, built a beautiful place. And I'd love it to change. We are not a commercial area, we are residential. I have grandchildren that come and stay with me, and 14, 11, and 8 now, and I will not let them walk to Brown Park. There is no way that they can go down the street when I know on Harbor Drive South, I think there's over 9 rentals, and some of them are having 20 people at a time at each of them. I have trouble driving home. They're across the streets. Anyway, and there's no way I'm gonna let my grandkids out. So I'm very upset with what's going on with Indian Rocks Beach. We're a community that used to work together, get together, put on events for this city, and enjoy having guests come and enjoy Taste of IRB and the biggest beach party. But I don't see how that's gonna ever last if you get rid of all the neighborhoods and you're working on it. I did some analysis over time, and I looked at the tax records, and I also looked at a few of the homes of how they're advertised. And on the tax records, when the home's sold on Zillow, it would say 3-bedroom. Now they say 6. Okay, and it's not uncommon that every garage is enclosed, and they're also sleeping in downstairs, and magically, bathrooms have changed from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Who's watching this? It's not our city. Well, who's watching the codes? You guys could get a lot more tax for all those bedrooms. Think about what you're getting already in revenue. Just this year, 2021, how many homes sold and went with no homestead now? You're doubling the revenue of the taxes that you didn't bring down for the residents, but yet you are just sucking up the tax money. I'm sorry to bring that up. Anyway, I did notice also, because I had printed and looked at the site, the short-term rental online from the city, and it had a lot more information on it when I looked at it before. It had the BTR number, it had contact phone numbers, it showed what money they paid for their license, 10, 20 bucks. I mean, and all that's gone away. I don't know what happened, but it's not there where we can even walk the streets and try and check the BTR numbers if they're correct on the homes or the phone numbers anymore. So for some reason, you've pulled information away from us. I have a friend that says, wow, just got my first newsletter from the city, and she's a short-term rental owner. I would like to have that same newsletter so I know what's going on. Anyway, thank you, if that's my time up.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Jerry Newton, 438 Harbor Drive North. I think it's abundantly clear what your constituents want. There's a group here that represents the short-term renters that want what they want. We're supposed to be working together to get regulation and fees in balance. I just want to reinforce the conversation that why would that, if there's 10 members, why would there be 5 from each side when 1% or 2% even of people are in favor of short-term rentals? I believe the short-term rental favorable group are investors and people that are making money off short-term rentals. It's not the residents. It's abundantly clear that what your residents want, and I don't understand why we can't get something done here. The regulations that we're going to put in place, that everybody says we're working on, they need to have some bite to them. We need to have some reasonable regulations that resolve these problems. Whether it be noise, whether it be garbage, whether it be fees, the regulations need to have some meat to them in order to resolve anything. If they don't, we're going to be right here in 6 months having the same conversation, and nobody wants that. We all have better things to do. We're supposed to live in peace in our neighborhood. Let's get it done.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak before I close the public hearing?
Hi, my name is Sarah Dvorak. I live at 2704 2nd Street. And I was here with last month's meeting. I spoke then about my thoughts on occupancy and how we can control that, and I still stand by that. I also can't disagree with anybody else that's spoken here tonight. But the point that I wanted to bring up personally is that I am a service provider to this community, and I am one of dozens. So the ordinance that we put in place can have, a costly impact on small companies such as myself and the people that I employ. So I just ask that, while we decide what kind of ordinances we can actually employ and do something about, that you keep us in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward before I close the public comment?
Ma'am, you yielded your time earlier. Did somebody-
Okay. I got it, all right.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing now, and I'm looking for the reports. We'll start with the report of the city attorney.
I guess I'm reminded of Scarface. Everybody say hello to the bad guy. Thank you all for coming here and giving your input. This is the democratic process in action, as you've heard. We are working to have a workshop on January 24th on this issue, not just a workshop absent structure, but something that we will come based on the input we've been receiving over these last 2 months, based on meetings I'm having with management administration, consulting the ongoing case law. There were case law developments as recently as last week in the short-term rental landscape in Pinellas County. And so keeping abreast of those and finding what we can do, what we can't do, and what will work in response to this community. Apart from the short-term rental ordinance, which is clearly the highest priority at this time, I continue to work with the manager on a number of issues, some on the agenda this evening, and we'll address those in due course. As it is, I think, still our last meeting for the year, I do want to thank this commission. I recognize that it is my pleasure and privilege to serve you in every meeting. It could be my last meeting, and I always appreciate the opportunity to continue to work for you folks. I say that, I don't say that tongue-in-cheek. That is the process, and I value the privilege, the confidence, and the opportunity to work with and for this community. And so with that, I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Report of the city manager, please.
Thank you. Good evening. Just several different topic areas. On code enforcement, there were 5 notices of violation, 1 courtesy letter, 3 notices to appear, 2 of those were trash. One of those was a DEP violation. There were 44 parking citations that were written, and that does not include the citations that were written on the sheriff's office. On capital projects, the Gulf Boulevard undergrounding phase 2 is moving along. We're waiting on Duke to sign off on the final design. They're working on easement documents to secure easements for about, Dean told me today, about 26 properties that we need easements to put transformers and such on Gulf Boulevard. Working on that. Now, as you know, that's a multi-year project. We think that we'll be in a position to move a little forward where people can see some activity in the spring of the year. That's all dependent on Duke. The Nature Preserve Boardwalk is part of the approved budget That's a multi-year project. Boardwalk's been there for a couple of decades now, and we're starting the process to replace and put synthetic material in the boardwalk. We've secured a contractor, and that'll start in April. As we all know, construction prices are extremely high, so it's going to be a slow process. Next year, we'll probably try to squeeze a little money out of some other capital project areas and allocate more. We allocated about $100,000 to this year, but that's going to net us about 900 feet of boardwalk. And if those that have lived here for a long time know that it's a long boardwalk, it's going to take us some time to get this done. If there's any part grants available or anything, we'll pursue those. Street reconstruction this year, the Bay Boulevard from 23rd to 27th will be reconstructed. There's a pre-construction meeting next week, and that'll begin in January. And I do realize it's the holiday period, but I've got to bring up Red Tide. Red Tide's off the coast. The way the Red Tide process works for cities, and particularly small cities like ours, is the county, Pinellas County, always takes the lead. The Red Tide responds. They've already they've initiated just some preliminary work with contractors that they have contracts with contractors. Hopefully, we're not going to wind up with any dead fish. There was dead fish around St. Pete Beach over the weekend. The movement for the next 2 or 3 days is north and a little west. So the cooler weather will help us. So, nobody can really predict that, but we're ready to respond like we did before with our beach rate to secure dead fish off the beach. Anything broader than that would include mass kills, mass numbers of fish killed, and then like the intercoastal, that would be handled by the county, but that's being communicated on a daily basis, and as I get those, I've been forwarding those to the commission so you're aware of what's going on. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Short-term rentals, we distributed our second monthly email to all registered short-term rentals. One of the things I asked one of the staff members yesterday to do was we're going to add that to if you go to our website, there's a short-term rental section. We're going to start posting the emails, the monthly emails that we send out so everybody can read those. Per the consensus of the commission, we're seeking a contract with a host compliance company to provide us information about short-term rentals and where they are. And Arby touched on this earlier. One of the discussions we'll have with you at the January work session is that it's probably going to be something you need to consider as a citywide issue. A company like Host Compliance Company can help us locate folks that have not registered with the city and are not in compliance with our ordinance. Randy and I are actively meeting and will continue to meet to work on a list of possible amendments to the existing short-term rental ordinance and other city ordinances, because it's probably more than just amending the city ordinance, because fees and different things are located in different parts of the city ordinance. And for the record, we respect and like everybody's input on this. I've had communications with people that are pro and con on this topic. We tell them all the same thing. Come to the meetings. We had a good crowd at the meeting in November, but there's still time for people to give input. And even when we have the meeting in January, and we go through the list of things that we're going to bring forward, the commission, the majority of the commission will then direct the city attorney now to go back based on what you like or what you don't like to add to draft a new ordinance. And after that's done, and we have a draft ordinance, there would be at least 2 more meetings. There's 2 public hearings required when you adopt an ordinance. So there's at least 3 opportunities through this process, if not more. So I just want to emphasize that. But the fire chief, which I think you left, he in an email responded to an email that I sent a week or so ago. He expects to bring to his board an ordinance in January that will set up their own requirements in writing about what their requirements are gonna be on, you know, short-term rentals. And then long-term, what would happen is that our code enforcement personnel, the fire department, and probably somebody from the Pinellas County Building Department, which is our building official, when we do the annual inspections, they would all be coordinated, and they would go out and do the inspections based on whatever the last, whatever the updated ordinance. One thing I did want to mention, and I said, well, this will be posted on the website, the email that went to all the short-term rental owners this month emphasized noise, inspections, that those are most likely come in a more formal fashion, and then beach regulations and the importance of issue with dogs on the beach, noise after 10 o'clock, you have to remove your items after 10. So that gives you kind of a sample. And now, on communications, I would emphasize to you that that's just the monthly communication. And the additional code enforcement person that we have on staff, there's daily communications going on with people that operate short-term rentals, and particularly with the few problem properties that we've had. The events, Christmas events, tree lighting went very well. I want to thank A2K, Crowded Bills, and the folks that I had the pleasure of managing here at the city who made that happen. Street parade went off. I think this is the first year in a number of years where the piece of equipment hauling the Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus didn't break down, so that was a good thing. The Christmas boat parade is this Saturday. It starts at 7. It begins in front of the Holly Inn at the Intercoastal. As of this afternoon, we were up to about 40 boats, and by the time we get to Saturday, we'll have more than that. And as you know, we have the official registered boats, and we have the people the party boats that follow along, so we'll look forward to that. The weather looks a little chilly, so it'll seem like Christmas. Also, we want to thank the volunteers of the Board of Adjustment, P&Z, and the Finance Committee. That can be a thankless job for a number of reasons. And on behalf of the city, I want to thank all the people that volunteer on those boards and the time they give and the commitments they give to the city to serve there. Also want to thank the Pinellas County, Pinellas St. Coast Fire Rescue District and the Sheriff's Office. I deal with them virtually every day on some topic. And when we all go to sleep, they're not asleep. They're dealing with whatever they're dealing with, and I want to thank them. And then last but not least, I want to thank the group of employees that I have the pleasure of managing. I think we have today the best group of, best team that we've had since I've been here. It's an honor to lead them, and I learn from them every day, just like I learn from the commission and I learn from the public. And they're also a 7-day-a-week operation. The solid waste team, they're out picking up garbage 7 days a week. They pick up a lot of things that none of us, I would include myself in this contact, would want to touch. Things that they probably shouldn't touch, but they pick it up. And Public Works does the same thing. Even the folks in City Hall, we could write a book on phone calls that we receive and unusual questions that were asked. But we have there again, particularly the front office area, we just have really great folks up there. So I want to thank them. And last but not least, the commission. Appreciate each one of y'all. There's a difference sitting on this side of the dais versus that side of the dais, and I know what that means. I've been at this for 39 years, and I appreciate it. And on behalf of Michelle and I, Merry Christmas to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Greg, the letter that you sent out to the vacation rental homes, you said that same letter will be on the website, so if anyone else would like to view it?
Yeah, what I asked Lauren to do yesterday was she's going to get back. This is the second monthly email that we sent out. We're going to post those in that short-term rental, I think it's supposed to be vacation rental section. And that way anybody can pull that up and take a look at it. And as far as the comment that was made earlier about the VTR numbers, I don't really know about that, but I'll check on that tomorrow.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Greg at this time? Okay, we'll start with you, Phil. Do you have any
No, I'd like
comments
to
for tonight?
Thank everyone for tonight, and Merry Christmas to all. Thank you all for coming. You don't fall on deaf ears, even though you think you do. And taking this very seriously, we're trying to get our arms around it. We have to be equitable with everyone, because everybody lives here, or owns something here, and pays taxes here. So it's just be confident. It's going to get solved as we can. Thank you.
Folks, I'm up for re-election, and I'm not alone this time. It's not going to be a walk-on. Don House is going to be running for a commission seat, so is Lan Vaughn, and we have another contender. I don't know if he's here, Preston Smith. So, hey, Preston, and nice to meet you. I guess the only other question I have about the next short-term rental work session we're having is, are we going to be getting together with you individually to discuss our wants and needs for the ordinance?
We'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
We feel like we have a good list from the commission and the public, and then tonight I made notes. But yeah, as part of the process, we'd be happy to, as checking the box, we'll make that run one more time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Commissioner McCullough?
Sure. I'd just like to focus on a little bit of community business, if we can. I still do believe we do have a community here. I see a lot of volunteers and a lot of people out at the events, and I love shaking hands and seeing everybody out and enjoying themselves at the taste. And the guy's 80th birthday, incredible. But just a little update here from the HOA. We are still working on the IRB Joy Drive. I just want to highlight the restaurants, which honestly, we could not do the events and could not make this community without them. The ones participating in this particular event is Krabby Bill's, of course, Anecdote Brewing, Beach Waves, Jim Iguanas, VIP Groupers, and Hurricane Eddies. Have had their Toy Drive or Joy Drive event so far. Slice is tomorrow, December 14th, and Chicago Jacks will be Monday the 19th. The HOA is basically looking at items that can be donated there, either cash and or items. You can find that on the HOA's website, but they will be collecting and donating all things to the Beach Community Food Pantry. Some of the same donations you heard tonight. Silver Santas, which is a new, when we lost Grace House, unfortunately they lost Grace House for funding this past year, so Silver Santas we're working with. Pineapple Project, which I know was involved with Cookie. Miracle on the Bay, which is more helping disabled children and so forth. And Shepherd's Village, right here in Bel Air, helping those families get back on their feet. So basically it's a wide thing, from food to bathrobes to slippers to towels to toys. We're not really looking to collect a bunch of bikes this year. So we're trying to, if you do feel the need to donate, doing that across kind of across the thing, not just toys, would be fairly appreciated. The donations basically will be accepted up until the 19th, or could be dropped off there at Century 21. The HOA's Mix and Mingles will begin again in January, targeting around the first or the third Thursday of the month. That's to be determined. But like I say, everything, all the information about the events and or donations can be found on the HOA's website or Facebook page. That should be it for me today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bowman?
And for the year.
I don't have anything to add, but happy holidays to everyone. See you in January.
I just wanted to add, in case anyone who might not have been at the meeting that we had last month, some of the things that are going to be involved in the, what the staff and the attorney will be bringing back on January 4th, will be hopefully maybe we might have a special magistrate by then. We're definitely interviewing at this time. They are creating an occupancy ordinance limit, registration and certificate increase fee. And the fire chief is in the process right now of doing an inspection requirement ordinance too. So those are some of the things that will be a part of what is brought back on January 24th. I just wanted to thank the commission for their constant support. And I appreciate those of you that are going to be coming with me tomorrow. Tomorrow is my last day on Fort Pinellas, which is one of the agencies for Pinellas County. I've served on it for 11 years, and I'm the chairperson, so I'll be going out. And the last time that I represent all of our beach communities, it's been certainly an honor. Our past mayor, Bob DiNicola, who was our mayor many years ago, the longest serving mayor we ever had, he was the last chair from the beaches, so it has been an honor to serve on that, and I appreciate those of you that are going with me tomorrow. With that, we'll move on to additions and deletions. Are there any additions and deletions? Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Randy, would you like to read the consent agenda, please?
Happily, Madam Mayor, there are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first, or 3 items on the consent agenda. Item A is approving a beach parking lease agreement between the City of Indian Rocks Beach and 50 Gulfside Condominium for parking purposes located at a portion of the Central Avenue beach access. Item B is approval of the November 9, 2022 regular City Commission meeting minutes. Item C is approval of the November 15, 2022 special City Commission meeting minutes. These are the 3 items on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We will move on to public hearing 6A, resolution number 2022-07. It's a public hearing. Randy, would you please read in its entirety?
I won't be reading the resolution in its entirety, Madam Mayor, but the resolution by title, City of Indian Rocks Beach, resolution number 2022-07, a resolution of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, relating to lot mowing or clearing, providing for approval and endorsement of all assessments is finally fixed and adjusted. This resolution concerns the city's efforts to abate, well, let me address. The city's code requires property owners to trim vegetation on their property and otherwise keep the premises clean in fear of debris, trash, and other noxious matter. If a property owner fails to maintain the property in such fashion, the city may take steps to abate the property and charge the owner an assessment commensurate with the cost of the city to do so. What you have before you in this resolution is such an instance. The resolution, the resolution concerns the property at, I want to make sure I've got this right on the exhibit, the legally described as 01-30-14-42048-087-0220. The name of the owner is the estate of Robert Clemmer, care of Diane Clemmer, with an address in Inverness, Florida. With that, this is structured as a quasi-judicial hearing, so with that, is there anybody who intends to offer any testimony this evening on this matter? Sir, would you mind, are you planning to offer any testimony, sir?
Is this just for one lot, or is it all lots in the city, or?
This is just this one lot, sir. Sir, could you stand and raise your right hand?
I've already been sworn.
Okay, been sworn. With that, is there anybody else who intends to offer any testimony? Has any member of the commission had any dealings with the property owner other than any written submissions which are part of the record?
No.
No.
With that, as I was stating, let me back up. This is the process here is you cannot use municipal funds for the benefit of individual private property owners. We are not a landscaping service, nor can we do that officiously, generously, or otherwise. And so with that, the city has engaged in abatement and self-care and is seeking to recover those costs and foreclose on, or rather to establish a lien on that. That's what this is for. And with that, I'll turn it to the manager to present on behalf of the city.
Thank you. This is 1216 Bayshore Boulevard. Back in November, around November 12th, 2020, we had complaints on this property. Grass is not mowed, overgrown, dilapidated fence. We, per the ordinance and per state law, sent a registered letter, regular mail letter to the property owner. The property owner who lived there was deceased. After the property was cleaned by the city, a neighbor gave Mike Kelly, who's one of our code enforcement officers, a phone number for Diane Clemmer, which was Mr. Clemmer's sister. Mike contacted her and advised her of the issues with the property, and at that point, the property still appeared in the tax records under Mr. Clemmer's name. On March of this year, the city sent a courtesy letter to Diane Clemmer because her name now appeared as the executor, I guess, of the property. It addressed the vehicle and the condition of the property. In June of this year, June 9th, another courtesy letter was sent. And one thing I did skip is before we cleaned the property, it was posted. It was posted with a sign on 10/12/20. Back to June of this year, another courtesy letter was sent with an itemized invoice for $1,814.74, asking for a remittance from her for the city's expense to clean the property. And she actually signed for that letter. All these letters were sent certified in regular mail. In August, on August 11th, another letter was sent to the responsible party. There was a conversation that led to a conversation with Mike Kelly. There was no payment and no progress made. After that, I directed staff to begin to put together the documents to place it on tonight's agenda, and working with Mr. Kelly, with the city attorney and city attorney staff and the city clerk. And that's what you have tonight is the necessary process of paperwork for us to file a lien on the property. Since they were sold, we will get our $1,814.74 back. Ms. Clemmer sent, I guess it was an email, a letter or something, I think it was an email, where she claimed that nobody ever talked to her, nobody ever communicated with her. I think I just described to you multiple letters, certified and regular, at least 2 verbal conversations with Mike Kelly. And, fortunately for our city, let's make this comment, fortunately for our city, as far as properties that have real problems, I could probably count those on one hand. Y'all dealt with one, we're going to have to deal with it again. There's a house in Deplore, so we're just really blessed. I've had worked in places where we have 100 of these at a time. But this is the process. This is, as Randy indicated, we've expended city funds. We've asked for payment. Even when we ask for payment, and others have paid us in the past, we're even willing to work out like a payment plan. We just kind of got I'm not paying you. So this is the proper process to, at some point in the future, get our money back. So that's what's going on.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments? Okay.
Greg, just out of curiosity, is there an ongoing interest rate that is applied, technically using our money with no interest over a period of time? It's just not a municipal thing we do.
Any other questions for Greg?
So what happens moving forward? I imagine the grass is still going to grow.
Well, fortunately, an update to this piece of property is that it was provided after the fact to you, that supplement we give you. The 2 vehicles that were dilapidated and unlicensed and expired tags, those are gone. And I asked Mike Kelly today, it appears that the owner either is doing it herself or they've hired a company to keep the grass cut. So maybe we're okay.
Then.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
In her email, she's kind of saying that things were taken from her property.
That's not factual. I would use another word. Dean and I personally went over, and if you look at the picture photographs and the stack of photographs, there's before and after pictures. She references directly a rabbit cage. If you look at one of the pictures after it's cleaned, the rabbit cage is sitting in the backyard. I could give other descriptions of verbal communications with her and the inconsistencies of information that we received, but I'd rather not get into that.
Okay.
But I can just tell you that Dean and I personally visited and ensured, because if you look at the pictures, you'll see like the remnants of a motorcycle, a scooter-looking thing. Only thing we did was cut grass, trim bushes, and then picked up. And as you can tell by there's an invoice in there that tells you how many trips we made in the landfill. This was not a small project. It was pretty overwhelming. But we did not, take a grand piano or anything else from the property.
Okay.
Can I ask what
Wait
address
1
that
minute,
was?
because I will open the public hearing and you'll have a minute to speak, but I just want to, you'll have to wait for 1 second here, okay? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? Joe, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Jude, anything else? You're all set?
The address, Cookie, is, for the gentleman, is 1216 Bayshore Boulevard.
At this time, I'm going to open the public comment or hearing, and this would be on 6A, our public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to come forward and speak on this agenda item? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I am looking for a motion.
I'll motion to approve resolution number 2022-07.
And is there a second? Second. Is there any comments from the maker or the second?
For me, just obviously the city's done their due diligence. We've made notification. We perform per our guidelines.
Okay.
I'm like Greg, I remember the Golf Boulevard issue, and we don't do this lightly. We try to give everybody every opportunity to remedy the situation before we take action. And so I think this was good. It's definitely backed up by
Any other comments from the commission? No. Hearing none, Deanne, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Bond?
Yep.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor Hausberg?
Yes.
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
Commissioner McCall?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. We'll move on to 6B, ordinance number 2022-07. This is another public hearing. It's a second and final hearing. And Randy, would you like to read this?
Happily, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2022-07, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to Section 74-63 of the city's Code of Ordinances pertaining to the operation of vessels within the city's coastal waters in the Gulf of Mexico, providing for the incorporation of recitals, providing for approval of an amendment to the city's code to establish a public bathing beach area limited to manually propelled vessels only to conform to Florida statutes and administrative code, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance 2022-07 by title only. Commissioners, this is on second reading. You should be familiar with this on first and the workshop that we held on this issue. The only substantive change in the ordinance between first and second reading was addition to the language where it says that this will span the entire beach in 7463-A in the purpose. It says now the city intends to designate the entire beach, the entire area from its northern corporate boundary to its southern corporate boundary and extending 300 feet from the city's shoreline and into the Gulf of Mexico as a public bathing beach. That was in response to FWC feedback asking for some coordinate or some boundaries to it, and so it's clear that it is where it's going, how far west it's going, how far north and how far south, and obviously otherwise bounded by the land. Otherwise, this is as you've discussed it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you otherwise have.
So the FWC, that was the portion that they came back and said the entire beach, they wanted a clarification on that?
To the extent we added the language about northern and southern corporate boundaries, yes, they said it might be helpful. It would be helpful to have coordinates or street markers or something that tells us how far north and south. And so, since we had already said entire beach, I was happy to clarify it that way just to make it clear.
Is there anyone who has any comments?
Yeah.
One real quick
Bill?
question. I noticed that the ordinance number is the same as the previous ordinance, so do we change it to 8, or do we make it 2022-07 item B?
Well, one is a resolution and one is an ordinance, so
Okay,
they're totally
so they're
different.
okay?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Anyone else have any
I can have a
comments?
question, yeah.
Yes.
So 300 feet west of where?
It says, the way it's written, one moment, let me pull up the language again. As written, it says the city intends to designate 300 feet from the city's shoreline and into the Gulf of Mexico as a public bathing beach.
Is the, I know this is a little gray.
Well, it didn't get into from the erosion control line, the coastal construction control line, because those are not fixed points along the beach. It's generally, it's not going to, and buoys as they float don't stay in a fixed location. So it's to give a general, give general guidance from that. We will, of course, in working with FWC on the administrative side, say how do you administer this from the permitting side. If we put it here, that fixed point, this is our ambition. This is clearly what we intend to do. So it's not a half mile out. It might, whether it's 10 feet up. I believe they look to the mean high water line generally, but again, it's not going. We're not trying to create something that snakes to a fixed point for buoys that float in the water. And Greg may have some more insight.
Yeah, after this ordinance will be approved, we'll have to apply for a permit through the state, and all that will have to be laid out in most likely GPS coordinates where they'll sign off on it. And then they'll have to sign off on the final wording of part of the new budget, the budget we're in right now. There's allocation of funds in there to buy all new buoys, and it'll reflect in some version what the new restriction is. But all those things will be handled through the permitting process, and Dean will have the pleasure of going through that process.
Anyone else on this side who has any comments?
That was my question.
Any comments over here? At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing if there's anyone who'd like to come up and make a comment.
My house, proud SFA in West Side. We all live in Indian Rocks Beach, but I live on Indian Rocks Beach. This is again taking away some of our rights that live on the beach. I understand that there might be some pressure from outside to do this, but a few points. One, do you really know what you're voting on? I mean, last time, there's a little issue going on here now called short-term rentals that y'all voted on something that was, Greg alluded to, there might have been some bad information when the city commission voted on it. Well, there might be some bad information here too. On the water, on the beach, we have riparian rights, littoral rights, however you want to say it. And this is a further erosion of those. You're saying that we can't even bring, before, when this came up before, it was like, well, if you had a sailboat, you could sail in with the sailboat. And if you had a power boat, you could bring your power boat up to the shore, unload your people, but you couldn't park on the beach, which I thought was an erosion of our rights. It was an erosion of our rights. And this is a further erosion of that. So, do you really know what you're talking about? What we're getting ready to vote on. Two, is there anybody here taking any money for this? Is there any reason that anybody would have to disclose that they have anything going on here? And C, just like my Joe Biden imitation. So, see, if you don't live on the beach, you don't understand how this is important. Yeah, if this is like, if we left the right to vote for the city, that those of us that live on the beach could sign away our rights with for putting sand there, they'd be pumping sand out there now because everybody on the east side would say, yeah, just pump sand out there, we'll take away their rights. More than half of the city the people that live on the beach, more than half the people, almost 2/3 of the people that live on the beach, did not sign the easement releases that the county was asking for. And this is part of this is the mistrust. And this would go further toward ensuring the fact that you're just taking away our rights. And if you're sitting there taking away our riparian rights, be prepared that, you know, to have either more mistrust of of people that actually live on Indian Rocks Beach. Not just in Indian Rocks Beach, but on Indian Rocks Beach. We have the right to enjoy the beach also. We have the right to get the garbage in front of it, which we do. And so I just want to be very clear that this is not just something that if somebody says, well, it's just we're making the whole thing, you're taking away the voting rights of the people who actually live on Indian Rocks Beach to come up to their property. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this issue? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. And do you have any comments?
I would just add that as written, Mayor, it doesn't prohibit a boat traversing that area. It just cannot be under motor power or wind power at the time for that span. It doesn't, as written.
That's, thank you.
So like if you needed to repair it and it wasn't working, you just bring it in and it wasn't working.
Yes, but I don't think that was repairing rights, but as riparian. But yes. That's the only thing I wish to clarify for the record, Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to say that I'm not going to say, but let me just clear up a couple of things. One, this is something that's mandated by the state of Florida.
Yes.
We were put on notice, I don't know, Randy, how long ago was it?
Roughly 6 months ago, or maybe a little more than that now.
We had a valid permit. The grand folks in Tallahassee changed the law. There was a rulemaking that was applied, and then the permit that we have was invalid. So we were mandated to do this. It doesn't prohibit boats. And you know, we can all sit quietly, but as a professional who's worked in this arena for 39 years, let me just say for the public, I'm not in the boat business. I'm not taking any money from boat business people. I don't know where that comes from, but this is but it really clarifies the problem we've had for years. You want to know the gospel truth. People are so confused by the buoys that we have, the people that are sitting on the beach enjoying a beverage. Honest to God, most of them believe that there's not supposed to be any boats. If that's a boat exclusion zone, it's never been that. And the boaters are not sure what they could do under the current ordinance we have. So really what this does, it gives us the ability to really clean this up, but this is mandated by the state of Florida. If somebody has a problem with a mandate from the state of Florida, they're in the wrong city. They need to get in their car and go to Tallahassee and get that fixed. But we're complying with the state law. But back to the money thing, it's offensive. And you know, as far as communication, one last thing, and I'll hush. As far as communication, a lot of the confusion that's caused in this community, and not just here, all across the country, is by people spreading things like who's taking money when they're not. And that's offensive. Thank you.
I'd like to clarify that.
There's no more talking. I've closed the public hearing at this time.
It wasn't correctly written. It wasn't correctly
I'm
written.
fine with that, and I just said there's no more talking, the public hearing has been closed. At this time, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
And is there a second?
Second.
And that would be ordinance number 2022-07.
Right.
At this time, Deanne, would you call the roll?
Commissioner McCall?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hausberg?
No.
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Mayor Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. With that, we'll move on to 7A, other legislative matters. This is ordinance number 2023-01. Randy, would you like to read this?
Happily, Madam Mayor, we are on first reading for ordinance number 2023-01, an ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 50, Solid Waste, Article 2, Collection and Disposal, Division 3, Fees and Charges, Section 50-91 Fee Schedule, to remove the fee schedule from the codified portion of the city's ordinances, providing for the subsequent adoption of a resolution setting forth the applicable fee schedule, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, and providing for an effective date. This has been a reading of ordinance number 2023-01 by title only on first reading. I want to explain what's happening here just from the procedurally so it's clear. Over the last few months, you folks have had some meetings about what you wanted to do about your solid waste and recycling. There was a direction given to administration to renegotiate the terms of that recycling contract, and it was agreed to extend it with an understanding it would come at an increased cost. And with that increased cost, administration is proposing to, increase the solid waste fee schedule as it's set forth in the ordinances. As a matter of legal advice, my advice to them was to pull the fee schedule itself out of your codified ordinance, have it be a resolution. Resolutions can be amended on first reading so that if you're not always, every time you're trying to change $1 and a cent, you're not having to take out an ad in the paper, mark it and otherwise. This fee schedule, would be codified later by a resolution, so the ordinance you see strikes out all of the fee schedule language. Because we're only on first reading, in second reading, you will see a resolution that has the fee increases. But for clarity in the record, I will say that the figures that we're looking at can be found in that section of code that we're dealing with, which is one moment. Let me get back to that PDF. Section 50-91, and so you can see all the scratched out numbers there, but the numbers will change in the resolution. Where it says 2278, it'll be 2506. Where it says 2165, it'll be 2382. 2844, 3128. 21992 will be 24191. 40105 will be 44116. 569.19 will be 62611. $110.01 will be $121.01. $200.56 will be $220.62. $284.39 will be $312.83. $14.23 will go up to $15.65. $110.01 and the same three schedules that I just read: $121.01, $220.62, and $312.83. So if you're tracking that, that's the amount they'll go up. It is a set percentage, and Dan can speak a little more to that. But I wanted to give you an exposition on why it doesn't look like you usually see it. A resolution is only adopted on one reading, so if and when this were to pass on second reading, the very next agenda item would be the resolution establishing the schedule of fees at these increased amounts. But in the interest of transparency and disclosure to the public at this stage, I wanted to make clear what that resolution will say, because the fees will be increasing. And with that, I'll throw it back to Dan if he has anything else to add.
We're good, unless all questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Dan or Randy at this time?
No.
Is there anything?
I do not.
Okay. With that, I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak on ordinance number 2023-09?
I just have a question.
Sir,
You have to come up to the
you can come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
And that was my point before when I raised up. I didn't hear that guy's name and address. He just walked up here to the mic and
No,
started
he
talking.
introduced himself as Luke LaRoe and provided an address in Bel Air, sir.
Oh, he did?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, please forgive me because I did not hear that.
No problem.
I sat down though. With that, dealing with the fee structure, so if we set it up that way, it makes complete sense. You can change dollars and cents. I have not seen the graph or anything. Is that going to, I'm assuming the fee structure is based on what, commercial versus residential, or?
The ordinance, yes, the ordinance is structured based on, there's different rates for different forms of pickup, so single unit rate, 2 times per week, multi-unit rate, commercial business established dumpster rates, additional pickup charges, and those sorts of things.
You answered my question then, that's perfect.
And that's in 50-91 of the code currently, if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment, and I'm looking for a motion on ordinance number 2023-01.
Motion to approve ordinance 2023-01.
I'll second.
Dan, would you call the roll?
Commissioner McCall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hausberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Bond,
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah,
Sure.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, motion carries. There are no work session items for discussion. Is there any other business to come before this board? Hearing none, I am just going to say Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. And looking for a wonderful
Motion to
new year. And adjournment, anybody?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Anyone else?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You always count on Denise for that one.
That's right.
She waited.